Hello everybody, this is Gregory with 5-Minute Catholic Apologetics and Living, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today we're going to talk about and ask a question to our Orthodox brothers and sisters as to how they think that there was no primacy of Rome when we are going to look at two examples of such. Now before we begin, let's start with a prayer. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritui Sancti, Amen. Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto, secutor principio et nunc et semper, et seculi seculorum. Amen. We have a couple of videos here in the last few years on our Orthodox brothers and sisters. Remember, the Orthodox do have Apostolic Succession, and they have valid sacraments. And as Pope John Paul II said, they are one of the lungs of Christianity. And we do have a video here, 7 reasons why traditional Catholics shouldn't leave Holy Mother Church to go to Orthodoxy. That being said, I do want to bring up a couple of things and just ask some questions, because I do know we have some Orthodox watchers. So I would like for you to answer these questions. So obviously the Catholic Church believes in the primacy of Peter. You can see this scripturally played out in Matthew 16, also later on in John 21, feed my sheep, tend my sheep. He only has that conversation with Peter. And we can look at the times that Peter is mentioned in the New Testament. First of all, at every list of Peter, or of the apostles, I should say Peter is number 1, but maybe that doesn't mean anything. But if you look, Peter is quoted something like 5 times more than the next apostle. Doesn't necessarily mean anything, but let's look at 2 examples in history. Let's look at Aeron of Leon. So I would say Aeron of Leon, you could arguably call him a grandchild of the apostles. And why do I say this? Because Aeron of Leon, Lyon's in France, so don't think he lived in France this whole time. He was actually raised in Asia Minor, and he was taught by Polycarp. Polycarp is one of the 3 apostolic fathers, along with Clement and Ignatius of Antioch. So these 3 were actually trained by the apostles. So Polycarp, we have his writings. We have a video here on Polycarp. He was trained by the disciple John. So John to Polycarp. Polycarp trains Irenaeus. Irenaeus eventually leaves Asia Minor and ends up in France. That's why he's called Aeron of Leon. He's a doctor of the church. His Against Heresies is one of the most fundamental bulwarks in writings that we have of the early church. So you think Irenaeus is roughly in 100s AD. Anyways, so he has a famous quote regarding the primacy of Rome, and it's, quote, "It is a matter of necessity that every church should agree with the Church of Rome on account of its preeminent authority." So that's Irenaeus. So he is saying that in order to engage what is orthodoxy, not necessarily what we perceive orthodoxy today, just what is actual tradition of the right teachings of the faith, orthodoxy, we have to look to Rome. Now, why is he saying that? Look, you could say that maybe he has some sort of bias if he was trained by Peter, but he was not trained by Peter. He was trained by John. John to Polycarp to Irenaeus. So early, this is 180 AD, he writes this. He's saying, if you want to know what's the legit teaching of the faith, you got to go to Rome. You got to go to the successors of Peter, the papacy. And remember, in 180, we're already dealing with heresies. I mean, we were dealing with heresies in the New Testament scriptures. You could look at Galatians. Paul talks about the Judaizers. And then later on, we have the Donatists. And then later during this time, we're going to have Arian controversy. The Arians are going to be, maybe 100 years later. The Gnostics around this time. So there is going to be different heresies around. And he's saying, you got to go look to Rome. Look to Rome. The other one I want to look at is Athanasius. Athanasius, we do have a video here on him. He's a great father of the church, both highly respected in the East and in the West. I've always talked about, like, if there's a new pope, I like to see him be called Athanasius I, or if I could create a parish. If you go to the video, and I'll make sure I put the banner up here. If I had to create a new church, like in a parish, I would name the parish Athanasius. I think he's great. You see him, not only is he a great teacher and great writer, you look at his life, how he fought Arianism and how he was sent in exile multiple times and he always took up his cross. He's just an incredible saint. We talked about not that long ago, like why the Protestants, I feel bad for them because they don't have saints to look up to as role models. By the way, Athanasius, every time he was exiled, what did he do? He went to Rome. He went to Rome to plead his case. He went to Rome. So particularly like in the second exile, when he's exiled from Alexandria, he goes to Pope Julian. And again, this is in the 300s. He goes to Pope Julian to plead his case. Why would he go there? Because again, this is about 200 years after Irenaeus, who's a grandson of the apostles, so to speak. Athanasius, who's loved by the Eastern Church, understandably so, is seeking Rome because he knew. And look, we could talk about Clement of Alexandria. We can get tons of quotes. And we have these videos here. We can get tons of quotes showing the primacy of Rome early in the church. But why would Athanasius, a stalwart, perceived today a stalwart of the Eastern churches, the Eastern Rite Catholic churches and the Orthodox, why would he be going to Rome? If the early church didn't believe in the primacy, why would St. Irenaeus be saying that if you want to know what is right Orthodox teaching, you go to Rome? And he's saying this. So he's a grandson. So like, look, it's kind of like what I say about the Mormons, and like what they always say there's a great apostasy. You always just say to them, prove it, show me when this was, show me the exact year it was. Guys, you can't get even any more direct. We're looking at the Apostolic Fathers. We're looking at the successors of the apostles that were taught by the apostles. So if Irenaeus thought this, it's because he was trained by Polycarp, and Polycarp was taught by John. So no doubt John told him, follow Peter. Where Peter is the truth. Peter has the keys to the kingdom. Guys, post in the comments. If you agree or disagree, you Orthodox guys, post in the comments. I'd like to hear from you. Why would Athanasius go to Rome? Why would Irenaeus say that about Rome? I'd love to hear from you. In all charity. Until next time, take care, God bless, and pray.